Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Town of Manchester Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for August 19th, 2014. First order of business is the approval of the June 24th, 2014 minutes.
I read those, they look pretty sharp, and I would like to approve those.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion to accept with it being seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. Let's move to item number 3, reports. Michelle, Board of Zoning Appeals.
I have no report.
Okay. Steve, anything for the town?
Sure, a couple pretty exciting things that's happening. If you look off to your left, you'll see our conceptual design on our new town hall / police station. The council have given me permission to move forward on the design work for the actual building of that building. The other thing I have for you is the town received a Civil War Heritage Trails grant in the amount of $48,800. That grant is going to be used to make this building ADA accessible, because our plan is, once we move out of this building to our new facility, the museum will come upstairs, and we want to make this building handicap accessible. We're going to be looking into putting in a ramp and entrance in the rear, and also doing some upgrades to our bathroom facilities here for those folks. And my last item is, as you probably read in the paper, the town of Manchester had, in conjunction with the police department and the fire department, had our first annual National Night Out on August the 8th. That was a big, huge success, and that was a very nice event. I think Councilperson Black will agree with that, and anybody that was there. Everybody came out that night, and it was good. Next year it's going to be even bigger. So,
Nice
Good to hear.
helicopter.
a lot of exciting things going on. We're moving forward. So.
Very good. Okay. Tammy, you like to add anything for the council?
I think Steve covered it.
Great. Ms. Moser, how are you this evening?
I am good. How are you all doing?
I can complain for all of us at once, but I don't know. What do you have for us from the
I
county?
have one thing, and it's following Steve is not going to be easy, because that was all such good news. You're a tough act.
I'm not tough back. Go ahead. You're on.
There is one thing I want to kind of bring you up to date on. I'm going to tell you everything I know, which is not much. We did hear back from the Maryland Department of the Environment on our effort to update the Carroll County Water and Sewer Master Plan. It's been partially disapproved, approved, and modified. So staff in my office are working on trying to figure out what needs to be done at this point. But that is where it is, and I will keep you apprised as we figure out what we're doing and where we need to go next.
What is our timeline for compliance?
There's no set
Okay.
timeline. I mean, state law stipulates that once a local jurisdiction submits the locally adopted plan to MDE, MDE has 90 days for review and taking action, and then they can also give themselves a 90-day extension, which they did in this case. But then at the end of that second 90 days, if they don't act, then by default, the plan is approved. But I think it was pretty much close to the last day that they submitted a letter indicating, approval, disapproval, and modification. So that is where we are at this point. And I'll keep you apprised as this saga continues, this long, unending saga.
Recall if any of the actions directly affect the town of Manchester?
It's my understanding that MDE did not have any issues with the Manchester portion of the document. That is my understanding. As far as water and sewer planning, they did not indicate any issues.
Thank you.
With some of the other systems, not the case. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay, moving right along. item for Western Abbey, the increased density request.
I printed something up, I don't know if you, Michelle, did you ever pass that out?
I did. As far as the background, I gave them a little bit of background on the initial approvals and what we initially started with. I also gave them all your letter.
Okay.
And they have,
They have the new layout?
yes, they have the new layout, they have the old layout.
Okay.
They got it, unless somebody didn't bring it with them.
No. I'm going to speak up at the moment. I'm going to recuse myself from a vote on this. My business partner has been doing a number of projects with Mr. DeMario's firm, so I just don't think it's appropriate for me to vote on this issue.
So noted.
Well, let me just capture a little bit more of what Michelle was talking about. We have a plan in place for 12 single-family style houses. Again, it's still age-restricted. And essentially, you've seen the units that are being constructed at Castle Fields, and they're very nice units. My client has a desire to use that same unit. They've gotten very proficient at constructing them. They are selling well now. It seems like this would be a good place to substitute those units. So that's really what's driving this, is to reuse that same type of unit. So with that, because it's like a townhouse, we can now get 19 units in there instead of the, I think it was 12 before. So there would be 6 buildings. We'd have to change the water line a little bit, but looked at the stormwater management and the overall grading is essentially the same. Would be relatively easy for us to get the stormwater management approval amended. That's it. It's a pretty simple change, I think. There's some concerns about where we are with setbacks, because when it was the age restrict, or well, Michelle and I have talked a little bit about it, and so there's some questions of where the building restriction line should be. But that was really the only issue that we had when we initially presented it to Steve and Michelle. Mike, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I mean, the benefit, obviously, of the active adult layout is that we were new to the project and to the concept when we started here. And one of the things we were almost guesstimating at that time was how many people would live in each unit. As we found at Castlefield, really, I'd say we average about, it's weird to say it this way, but about 1.6 to 1.7 people per unit. It's obviously mostly either married couples or single buyers, or a lot of buyers that sadly lose a spouse while they're there. We've already had that happen 3 or 4 times. So point in that would be, if we build 19 units there, it's really the equivalent of 10 normal single-family units in any other new home community in the area. It's just not a big impact. So I know that sewer's an issue, and I know that, road impacts and things like that are always an issue for a town like this. But it's just a product that makes a lot of sense. As Rich mentioned, when we got started, we weren't sure what the demand would be. We thought there would be more demand for the single-family units, which is why we had that option. But lately, the attached product has done really well. And it lends itself to this buyer in a parcel of this size, because it allows us to utilize as much of the land as possible without overcrowding the surrounding areas. Obviously, the one issue we tackle all the time, and Michelle and Steve will probably mention some of the stories. I mean, the cost there as far as maintenance and keeping the overall per monthly number for the buyer there under control is a big deal. So the more units that we can get there, it helps, with economies of scale and keeps the overall cost to maintain the community as low as possible. Getting a few more units there actually makes a big difference. So we think we can sell it, we know we can build it, and we're just hoping that you guys find a way to work with us a little bit on adding a few units to the parcel if it's possible. Any questions?
So if there's any questions, maybe we can help clarify any.
How many of your Castlefield 1 has been sold?
We only have 6 units left there available.
Only 6 left.
So that's the urgency to this. We were, obviously for the first 3 or 4 years, I mean, we were treading
Yeah, I
water
know.
trying to survive.
Yeah.
And we were lucky we did. But now that we finally established some momentum, the last 2 years have been pretty strong. So that's part of the reason we're here now, because we have to start making some decisions sooner rather than later as to what we're doing there. And all of a sudden, it seems like there's, initially I was wondering when we were going to sell that last unit. Now it seems like the more the merrier. And the folks that are there really enjoy it, so it's been a good 18 to 24 months finally.
It looks good over there.
Well, thank you. Yeah, we're proud of it. It's our baby, and as Rich can tell you, and Steve and Michelle and everybody else, Michelle Ostrainer, I mean, folks here, we started from scratch with that, so it's something we're proud of. And we think it's a nice addition to the town, and we hope that it is. We try and keep the complaints to a minimum and keep our nose to the grindstone, and it's worked out.
My first question is more to the town. Based upon the current zoning and the current land area, they can support an application for 19 units?
The code at the time when this was submitted, which we took retirement homes out, at the time when this was calculated, it was 1 unit for every 3,000 square feet.
Okay.
And I know I had this calculated somewhere
It's like 57 or 58 units based on site area.
on that area.
Yeah.
So they're way under.
For a portion of the code that does not currently exist, though.
No, we have nothing on retirement.
I know, that's what I'm saying, that currently we don't have a retirement
Right.
category anymore. Okay. But at the time that plan was approved, they would be well under the number of eligible units there. Okay.
Yes. If I'm not mistaken, they requested under greatly on both sides.
Correct.
They came in with not asking you what your best would give them, pretty much here's what they wanted, and
Right.
that's why they are now.
Yeah, my recollection was it was like eligible for like 400
Mm,
units or something.
380 something.
Yeah, something in that neighborhood.
And the water capacity, I think at the time would have allowed at
Right,
least
right.
double of what we
The well-
asked.
The well yield, I think, was part of what drove that number too.
That is correct, yes.
All the roadways shown on here are private roadways to be maintained by the community.
Yes, sir. Mhm.
Everything is fee simple to the building line. Is that the way these are set up? Or,
Well, it's a condo regime, so it's common element, and then with the owner owning the actual structure itself.
looks to be about 50 feet of fall from one part of the site to the other part of the site. How tall will these retaining walls be that are on the uphill and downhill side of these units?
They're on the construction plan, but my recollection is about 12 to 16 feet in the one deepest corner, is my recollection. I can look and clarify that though.
And on the uphill side, do you have adequate distance to tie those walls back, or are you going to need tieback easements on the adjacent properties?
When I designed them, I was anticipating using the Strong Stone product, which
Okay.
has, that
The
does not
geogrid.
require that.
Okay.
Although, when it comes time to construct, if that's an option, we may ask for an easement or a right of construction from our neighbors, but for the moment, I know that the Strong Stone product will fit in that footprint.
Okay. Stormwater management. How do you plan on updating to meet the stormwater management requirements?
I've spoken to Martin Covington at Carroll County about the change in the footprint, and given the sand filter design, he felt that all I needed to do was to verify the volumes and potentially expand. And we've got room in the corners to open that up, if that was the approach that Martin would like me to take.
Okay, what about an overland flow or relief pipe for larger storms?
Well, what we've designed is to capture the 10-year event on site. So there's a channel downstream that goes down, it goes along the back of, I can't think of the name of the road there.
Down to Southwestern.
Not Southwestern, but the one,
The gravel road that goes down to Southwestern?
right.
Mhm.
Is that a name?
There's
The
a-
ones
there's
that
a-
Fleming and the older man, the Garland?
Mr. Mitten.
Mitten.
Right.
There's a drive that comes comes up here, and there's a swale that comes along behind these houses. And the road name I'm looking for is the one that comes up here, but there's a swale that carries it down that we spent a long time analyzing with Mark and Larry.
This way.
Pine Rock.
Not this way, but
And
yeah,
I
this
think
way.
it's a pretty big swale back there.
See,
So it
where
would
I thought
not-
he was going this way.
Dump into anybody's yard is another way to put that.
This is the right of way here.
And that is in a
Yeah, I thought so
drainage
too.
utility
It's
easement.
a swale.
Yeah, that's correct. It's that swale right
We're
there.
confused. So it's a swale between Manchester Farms, Section 5, and Park Ridge. Park Ridge.
Yeah,
It's
that's
this-
Ridgely Court that
it's
comes
this-
up on the side there.
It's this swale right here.
That's it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Where it's in
Mhm.
place.
Okay.
Yes.
Sorry.
It flows down to Southwestern.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Forest conservation,
Was meant for the entire site previously, so there would be no change to that.
okay. Turnaround is sized for fire and rescue vehicles.
We've not changed the layout of the road in order to get these buildings in, so since there's been no change, I would assume that the fire department would still be satisfied with that. Of course, they'll get another shot at looking at it.
Right. And your construction types obviously change, so they'll look at
Right.
that as well. Okay. If we were to approve the additional units, what do we need to do as far as our water use is concerned? And
Steve.
There, well, as Mike said, the impact is very low. Their supply that they brought online, takes care of their demand, plus the demand that comes back to the town, or not the demand, but the excess comes back to the town. So, with their well online, I feel very comfortable on the water demand. This is not gonna stress our system with the additional homes. They are exactly right also, that when you're looking at this and you're looking at 1.6 persons per dwelling compared to 4 or 4.5 in some cases, so it's low impact on the system. Now, the same goes with wastewater also, same thing, so we can balance that out.
they would continue to be age-restricted units?
Yes. I couldn't change that. My sales manager would kill me. That's all she's learned for the last 3 years. I couldn't make her start over.
All the houses along Southwestern are on public water in that area, correct?
Correct.
So, okay, we have no wells in that area.
Yes. Yes, now you have to remember that on the lower side of Southwestern, we do have residents on private septic systems. Same way with Charmel Drive, right in that area. So, this will have no impact on those whatsoever.
And the houses at the end of Hilltop are on
They're
public?
septic. They're septic.
They're septic.
Right, public water,
Public water.
their own septic,
Private
correct.
septic.
I would say approximately 10 to 12.
I'm a little concerned with having 19 residences plus about 10 or 12 more, with only one access in and one access out. It's a lot of houses with a second route out if something were to happen, something blocking the road.
That was leading to my question about the grades coming across there for snow removal.
I mean, I can see to the west, south, and east, the lots are already created. But to the north, there might be a way to get a road connection out, to some circulation, second way out.
There is the gravel drive that's to the south. I'm not sure what the actual status of that, if it is a private lane, if it is
Yeah,
a
that's
private lane, or it's...
Is that the one that goes back to Mittens?
Yes, it's a
But
private
beyond
lane,
Mittens?
right of way,
Yeah, I was
But
gonna say,
beyond
it's been there
that,
for a fortnight.
right.
But
Right there next to this
you
Havel.
have to remember, I mean, this is a site plan, and it is also, the other, Castlefield is one way in, one way out. I don't know, the width of the road's the same?
Mm-hmm. I think so.
I would say yes, probably.
But
Yeah.
that's-
It's 22 foot wide on this one. I'm pretty certain Castlefield's probably 22.
We're not dramatically changing, we're adding basically 7 cars to the community. It's not a big impact as far as the emergency situation. Obviously, if it's not ideal now, we're not radically changing the roads. In fact, they're staying the same. It's just we're simply trying to continue building a product that we've finally learned to build.
Right.
So I don't see that the 7 additional active adult units really being a massive change to, God forbid, some emergency situation on Hilltop Drive.
Well, the emergency would actually be on your property, would be the concern here.
Right, well,
Somebody blocked it at the entrance point. However, it appears that you've got a sidewalk that's immediately adjacent to the curb. Am I reading the plan correctly?
I don't know that we have yes, we have the sidewalk shown on it,
Yeah.
yes.
Yes.
Yes, that's correct. The only place we
Which-
don't show it is all the way down, it doesn't go all the way around the cul-de-sac, which is,
Right, but I mean,
Right.
for the long cul-de-sac bulb, it actually appears you've got a sidewalk on both sides immediately behind the curb line,
correct.
which could be beefed up to a slightly thicker concrete section whereby if an emergency did occur, that could be used as part of a routing, correct?
It could be, but, I mean, we're gonna put a 4-inch sidewalk there, and, if it's a one-time emergency vehicle driving over, I wouldn't feel compelled to say we need to put a 6-inch sidewalk there for,
But you're gonna be 6 inches where you go across the driveways anyways, so, yeah, okay. Okay. I would believe that if we were to approve the additional lots, that this would come back to a site plan approval, since it's a different site plan? Is that
Yeah,
correct?
and that's what, I was uncertain, Michelle, they have to go through a whole site plan review, correct?
Yes.
it could be
Well, they would have to do
Yes.
whatever the various agencies require now, whether, you've already discussed this
Yes,
with
I know
Martin
you
and
do
Myron.
stormwater.
So how complete that's
Would-
gonna
would
be.
this be
It really is
considered-
just an amended site plan. as
well,
far
that's
as I'm
what I was
concerned.
gonna ask, is when I approached the county agencies, I told them that I thought this would be an amended site plan. I didn't say a new site plan, but,
I mean, that's how I interpret
Right.
it.
Yeah,
What you're
would be an
doing is an amended
It's
site
an
plan.
amendment, okay. But it would still come back to this board with detail?
right, the amendment would still have to be approved by
Okay.
you, yes.
Okay. If we were to approve it, one of the items that I would suggest that you look into is leaving us a connection to the sewer line that heads towards existing Hilltop should those houses have to convert.
Oh, on Hilltop Drive itself?
Well, giving us access
Those are here.
so that we could pull sewer down Hilltop if we had to connect into your sewer system, which runs down Ridgely
Right.
ultimately,
It would be a spur.
which will take care of those septic systems should they ever fail. I mean, it's,
Yeah, I don't see that being an issue.
Yeah, you could actually put a spur in
Right.
and end it, you could terminate it right at the entrance for future use.
Good thinking.
Anyone else on the board have any questions?
Just want to move forward.
I make a motion that we approve the request to increase the density to 19 units, subject to an amended site plan approval.
I second that.
Go ahead, Michelle.
This was a short one.
Yeah.
I rely on you guys to have long, complicated things, so I can look like I'm doing something.
I
That's a
I
site
don't
plan.
have it.
All right,
I've lost my time.
go ahead, Bob, once again.
I
It's
have
getting
it, a
slow.
motion to approve the request to increase density.
I make a
19
motion
units.
to approve the request to 19 units, subject to an amended site plan approval.
He was talking to me.
I was designing the sewer spur here. I got you covered, Rich.
Thank you. Get your notes and.
I got it now.
Meaning you can do this, Steve? All right, thanks. Sean.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. It's been seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay,
Thanks, guys.
good.
Okay.
Okay,
5 years, to see it work.
Pardon?
5
Okay,
years to see it
and the last item on our list, item 5, Manchester Farms, Section 7 review.
Okay, I have, I'm scheduled a meeting with Robert Hallbeck either tomorrow or Thursday. We're trying to get with him. So I wanted to know if there was anything you guys, any comments that you noticed right off from what you had that you would like to, I will put them in some sort of written comments. And just to get it to him for review prior to he actually comes in here.
One of the items of concern during their previous review was the steep slope on the south side and the town's ability to safely maintain that storm drain line that covers that soil.
Correct.
It does not appear that they have responded to our request to provide an adequate safety bench in there.
Right, we had talked about a ledge right there, yes, and no ledge. I reviewed the plans for water sewer and a little bit on storm drain. You might have my notes. And as Michelle said, we're going to meet with the rep from Manchester, from Bob Ward Homes, because these items that I have are very common, basic items that they should have known, what was required. So, some of the things, for example, water meter pits. We don't use water meter pits. The water meters are in-house. The only time we use pit meters are for long runs. In this case, they knew that going into it. The size of the line for the sprinkler system, so we have to get those items straightened out.
Plans that we received did not seem to provide detail for the stormwater management improvements that are going on down the bottom.
That's exactly right. I agree with that, Bob. And, one of the things that concerns me, a couple things on the storm water end of it, the ledge is one item. I was concerned about the slope. That wasn't shown clearly. The other item is I really couldn't see what widening of that pond was going to be taking place. I know where it's at, but there was no detail to actually show me. And then one item was the fence. That wasn't shown. The fence is going to have to be relocated. But those are pretty common items that were not covered in the plans. I didn't get a set, but Michelle did. In the packet that I received, I also didn't get a copy of the landscape plan. So I really didn't look at that. So, when's that meeting, Thursday?
What's your, I don't know if it'll be tomorrow or Thursday,
That's
but
fine.
we'll get what all we need for everybody.
Yeah.
Did you have, you had complete plans, did you?
Yeah.
You had landscaping and everything in there?
No, I don't
I don't
recall
think
landscaping
there
being
was
in my package.
landscaping.
I had,
I think this might be the second set. We got one set and then we got just a 4-page set. So I don't know what we have. I mean, it was 4 pages and then, I don't know what we have, but
No,
No one has that, but
no, landscaping's not on the list of drawings in the set.
well, and it's funny, there's no landscaping review papers that have come back either. So it's almost like landscaping didn't get submitted with it. I've gotten no comments from them.
Bob, didn't we ask, and I agree, I know we asked for the ledge. Also, I believe that was the meeting when our Director of Public Works was here, and he had requested more detail in regards to the pond. So, I mean, just a larger scale, so we can
Right.
see what work was done. So that was
I have not seen those plans,
right.
because my concern is the core trench associated with that pond, was it extended far enough that it could be enlarged in the direction they're going? Or
Correct.
do they need to go back towards the hillside more where you're cutting into natural ground?
That is correct. And then you're getting into the area, the reforestation area.
Right.
You're getting into that specific
Well,
area.
any direction they go, I think they're
Right.
gonna be impacting forest area that they're gonna have to
Yes,
compensate for, which
Right.
they probably have enough in the other parts of the development
right.
to take a bank type deal.
I don't want to bore you with
Yeah.
this, but for the stormwater management guys, Henry and Bob, there was one area in there where the pipe was 18 inch, I believe, and then it was increased to 21 inch. Then it was decreased back down to 18 inch. Were they going to utilize, I don't think they were going to utilize the existing storm drain in any way, shape,
I
or
didn't think
form.
they
I could not grasp why the pipe was, increased and then decreased again. I didn't understand. I think it's right around manhole 106.
Right, I think-
You have the plans.
As I recall correctly, I believe it was based
105.
upon the slope of the pipe that was running through there, that they were running a flatter section in one part in order to try and,
To create the velocity.
well, no, in order to reduce the depth of the line, because remember, they had some really, really deep,
That's true.
and I was
Okay.
concerned that the town doesn't have a piece of equipment that
Yeah,
could
can
go
get down
down
in
that
there and
deep.
maintain that.
That's correct.
But it looks like they pulled it up some
Okay, so
to help
maybe
with that.
Yeah.
And
okay.
I think they had to go to a larger pipe in order to carry the volume of water.
Got
But then
it.
when they got on the steep, it could go back to
Then they
15.
could go back down to 18.
Yeah, to 18.
Okay. All right, that makes sense. Very good.
But I believe they were planning on replacing, or not necessarily replacing, but providing another line running down to the pond.
Right, right.
And there was the question about all the utilities
Yeah,
that they're
that
going
was
to
a
cut
question
and
about,
straws.
the utilities that are running across there, so, okay, very good. Very good.
Very good. Michelle, you got anything else for us? Okay. Anything else for the good of the order?
Make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll second that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Good night.